What's going on, everyone? It's Talks with Kenny. Welcome to Live with Kenny, episode 33, where we'll be talking about identity politics, how it destroys culture, and self-determination, right? But before I get into my monologue, I'm planning to keep this live stream under an hour. I don't feel too well today, but, the grind doesn't stop. So I want to make some announcements. So next week, I will not be having a show next week. Next week is, as you guys know, Thanksgiving week. And I call Thanksgiving week the week of gratitude. And one thing I'll throw a challenge, and this is something I practice every day, is ask yourself what you're grateful for, right? I find that gratitude helps put things in perspective, right? Because, we live in a culture where it essentially incentivizes envy, right? And that's identity politics as well. Identity politics kind of plays into that as well with envy, right? And I think learning how to be grateful and gratitude helps keep you grounded. It put things in perspective for you, and I guess to kind of put the focus on yourself. It gives you a time of reflection, and I don't know, I benefit a lot from it. It really helped me, keep me grounded and keep me, straight and narrow. But I digress. Also, next week there'll be no Inconvenient Truths as well, right? I'm planning to take the whole week off, do a mental reset, think about how I can make the channel better and more engaging for you guys, and let me know in the comment section on some of your guys' thoughts and feedback, and I'll consider it. And also, there's a new update on YouTube. Apparently, you can do shorts. You can reply to comments using shorts. So that might be something I might be utilizing in the future with this channel. I still need to figure out how it works, but it'll be an interesting way of interacting with you guys. So if you're down for that, leave a like on the live stream. Also, just leave me a comment, and I could probably try it out while I'm traveling to visit family. But hey, I digress. I think that's everything I needed to do with the announcement. So I want to get into my monologue about identity politics, and essentially, I think identity politics is the worst concept to ever be thought of in history, right? Because to me, identity is very superficial, right? It doesn't really tell you much about a person. There's nothing there's nothing you can glean from me just knowing the color of my skin, right? But you could, in my view, you can learn a lot more about someone based on how they dress than on their skin color, right? I relate more to a white American than a black kid coming straight from whatever African country, whatever, because there's no common culture. Right. And this is my main argument against people who try to mix race with culture, as if your race determines, I can assume what kind of culture you are, right? You have. Right. And this is why I said that identity politics kind of kills self-determination, because identity politics forces you to conform to a pre-conscribed identity or an assumption about yourself, a stereotype, if you will. Right. And a lot of people hate stereotypes, but then when it comes to identity politics, you have to play into stereotype. Oh, you're a black man. You're not supposed to think like this. You're a black man. You're supposed to be on code, on the same team. Identity politics pushes for conformity and not individual thought. And what if the traditions and the cultures that your specific group is doing is wrong or not effective, and you call it out? It's seen as you're a traitor to your race. This is the biggest problem with identity politics. And I want to go into, obviously the video of Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, and how Jewish people are falling into this trap as well. Like they can't take any kind of questioning at all, right? And they're going to bring up, and Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, they're going to bring up an interesting point about how a lot of these donors, right, in the college system, like these Jewish donors, they donated to these colleges, even when the colleges was pushing racism, right, against white people, right, segregation, all this stuff. They were donating their money. They were like, oh yeah, here we go, just donating money. But the minute that wagon circled around for them, all of a sudden they want to withdraw money. And it brings up an interesting question: is that are people too aligned in a way? Because we live in America. In America, we're all supposed to be one nation under God, right? We all supposed to see each other as members of the same club. But for some reason, we have these fractions in our culture that allows a Jewish man, right, these donors, they didn't care when college universities, BLM was saying, oh, white people shouldn't be, should stand in the back. White people shouldn't reproduce. White people are the devil, right? Some black people will say that. And they were comfortable donating their money. But now when this same mob of college intellectuals that they funded turn their backs on them or turn their ire against them and with this pro-Palestine stance, all of a sudden we all supposed to feel sympathy for them. And I think that was an interesting point that Tucker Carlson will bring up in this segment. But let's get into the video.
Act at that time. So it's important, actually, when you start making decisions in a highly emotional time, that people sit down and have these academic debates. And there are people that are saying, no, it doesn't matter because people are dead, that you need to just choose a side, and that needs to be it. It needs to become tribal.
There's also, I can't help but notice that your views reflect mine, I would say pretty much. I'm an American. I was horrified by what happened on October 7th. I think it was pretty strange. I don't really understand how it happened, but innocents died, and that's awful. And I hated watching it. And I feel so sorry for the Israelis who were killed. However, there's an emotional response that is disproportionate, I think, on the part of some commentators. I mean, our country's being invaded right now by millions of young men whose identities we don't know, who probably don't even like America, and they're now living here. Over 100,000 Americans die every year of fentanyl. I've known a couple. Those are real tragedies. I've never seen anything like the emotion from any commentator around those tragedies as I'm watching about a foreign tragedy. I think that's odd.
And identity politics can play it in two ways, right? Your national identity and then your racial identity or your gender. And like, these are the things I think about. Is like, we have fentanyl crisis going on. You know, like 80,000 people die of fentanyl poisoning. I think that's more than the total amount of lives lost in between the Israel and Hamas war, right? But if you see our country in America, a lot of people are like, oh my God, all these deaths, whatever side you're on. And here as an American, I'm like, yo, we have 80,000 people dying over here due to fentanyl. Politicians don't care about it, but they're supposed to represent us as Americans, right? And this is what I'm talking about with identity politics, is that this is the slippery slope with it, right? If you're talking about patriotism, national identity, it kind of falls into the same identity politics, right? So then when you use identity politics against them, and this is how I like to always test ideas, is when people say that, oh, Kenny, it's not good that you as a black man point out how the insufficiencies in black culture, and you're saying that we need to fix it instead of blaming the system. You giving people justification to criticize black people. And I'll turn around and say, okay, but look at it from the whole foreign, like Ukraine, Israel war. As an American, it's not in our best interest to do that. Look what we got going on right here. And people saying that we can do both. I'm like, yo, why are we spreading resources around when we're supposed to be sitting here taking care of our own problems, right? You can't help somebody if you're not fixing your own issues, but we're busybodies trying to fix everyone else's issues, right? Giving money to Iran, right? Making the problems worse. Xi Jinping comes into San Francisco and you can't even tell if he was in America or in China. All you saw was Chinese flags, right? A lot of people I'm starting to notice this too, is that a lot of people identify with foreign nations more than the country that they were born in. And it's sad, all because of something I believe is superficial. Oh yeah, like this is my racial group is from this country, and yeah, I'm pro that country. But if someone from that country comes over here, you and that person won't really relate much. Yeah, sure, y'all can speak Spanish or whatever language you are from, but end of the day, y'all didn't grow up the same. Y'all didn't have the same privileges. Y'all didn't have the same upbringings, the same education, the same culture. But for some reason, we have Americans here who identify more with foreign affairs than they do here nationally at home. And I find that despicable in a way. I find that very sad too. Right? And this is why I say identity politics destroy culture. Like when people say diversity is our strength, it's not. Because identity politics can only work in a homogenous culture, like in Sweden, Finland, mostly white. Ireland, mostly white, mostly one race countries. Africa, identity politics works well over there, but identity politics destroys America because we have multiple ethnic groups in our country. The identity politics will infuse more division in our country to essentially cause a war. And you see why we can't get along now. Why people are calling for segregation all over again, specifically these black liberal activists. But you see why people are starting to call for these things. Why we don't take into each other's positions into consideration. You have a Jewish donor donating to colleges when they're promoting an anti-white racism narrative. They were fine with that. But the minute that same anti-racial group narrative attacks the Jewish person, oh, let's take my money away. And then now you got all the white people, white Americans asking, okay, Jewish billionaire, when they were preaching this rhetoric against my racial group, you didn't say nothing. But the minute they came for you, you want to pull your money and then you expect me to get as emotional as you are to condemn them. But you weren't condemning them when they were coming for me. But we both supposed to be Americans. You see how identity politics destroys multiculturalism? For a multicultural, multi-ethnic republic to exist, it must have a shared culture, period. And identity politics gets in the way of a shared culture. This is why I say identity politics is garbage. CRT is garbage. And we'll get more into that, but that was an interesting point that Tucker Carlson is about to bring up soon. So let's get back into the video.
I think what tends to happen is, of course, we all have elements of selfishness within us. And so when it particularly pertains to an issue that impacts you, I was strongly speaking out against Black Lives Matter as an organization very early on as a conservative because I understood what the implications were going to be of defunding the police.
Right.
It was an issue that was important to me. I created an entire documentary to talk about this issue.
Yes.
And I held on for a long time, and people began to see that actually I was telling the truth, and now we have more death in inner city communities than we had before.
Yes.
These riots and these George Floyd protests calling for defunding of the police. And I think in terms of this, that's what's also happened is that people that are pro-Israel are pro-Israel, a lot of them, because they have family members in Israel.
I get it.
They have homes in Israel.
Yes.
And so they feel very attached to this issue. And, you know, I was very happy to host somebody who was pro-Israel. He's a pro-Israel comedian on my show the other day. And I explained this to him. I said, you know, you are demanding that we have this same response that you are having about what people are saying on college campuses. The rhetoric on college campuses hasn't changed. Did you not remember what they were saying, what professors were saying? The anti-white explicit racism that was happening, and not even just allowed in terms of student protests, but was written into the curriculum at these universities for years. People were learning this actively in school, that whiteness was associated with wrongness. You had college professors that were writing about this need there need to be less white people in America. You can find these articles. They exist online.
They're everywhere.
They're
and
everywhere.
that seems genocidal. I mean, if you're
it
saying...
is genocidal.
Like, by definition, if you're saying being a certain ethnicity or race is itself a sin and we need less of you, I mean, that is the definition, is it not?
Right. It was an understanding of needing to breed out white people. It was unbelievable what I was seeing, and I was impacted by it because I'm in a biracial relationship and I have biracial children.
I'm in a similar situation too, but I mean, both my kids they come from both minority groups, right? My wife's Hispanic, I'm Black, so like they're still both minority groups, but that's the argument though. Like, you come along, you expect everyone, oh, now this hateful rhetoric, this genocidal rhetoric is pointing at you, but you were not quiet. I don't know. You know, Ben Shapiro was talking about this a long time ago, but this is specifically towards the donors, these college donors. Like, you know how they want to blacklist students because they put their name on pro-Palestine papers and all this other stuff. Now they want consequences. Oh, we need to blacklist these people. We need to do this. And everyone's looking like, especially someone who see us all as one team, as Americans. I'm like, hey, you condone hateful rhetoric towards one group of Americans, but now when that hateful rhetoric comes for you, now you want consequences. Now you want people to be held accountable. Where were you? And then when people were saying, hey, look, we don't feel as strongly about this as you do, they want to label you names. Right. And this is how a lot of people, this is why support for the pro-Israel stuff is starting to wane now, is because people are starting to see is like, hey, you're kind of being selfish here to a fault. You expect all of us to care about it the same way and with the same fire as you. But then when issues was affecting specific people, you didn't have that same vigor. Right. And this is the fracturing of our culture. And I think identity politics play a big part into why that happened. I digress, though.
So you are telling me that my children are going to have to decide between whether or not they are white oppressors or they are black victims. It doesn't stand for me. So I was attached to this issue, and it's something that I fought for hard on college campuses, and there was no support. There was nobody talking about, well, this is what needs to go. These kids need to go onto blacklists. And by the way, if they did speak that way, I would have disagreed with it, because I am pro 1A. I believe in the First Amendment. I believe that kids, by the way, are naturally stupid. In case people forget, I started on the left, right?
Yeah.
So if you found me in college, you would have found a pro-life person who believed, in some racist principles, fundamental racism in America, because that was what I was being taught systematically in the classroom. And then I got to grow up and change my mind. And I don't think people have thought past their immediate emotions to consider what's going to happen when you put these kids on blacklists. You think that's going to bring them over to the pro-Israel side when they get older? Most of these kids, especially when you're talking about the cream of the crop at these Ivy League universities, already have access to money and wealth and connections. And so maybe debating the issues and explaining to them why it was wrong to sign this specific letter, which didn't call for explicit violence against the Israelis, but it actually was very poorly timed, and it blamed them for what happened, which would have been horrific. Imagine after 9/11, somebody issues a letter on college campus that says, oh, well, sorry.
And also, I wanted to kind of talk about how, in a way, this stuff... Identity politics is like, and this is my reasoning for why I'm so against it, is that a lot of people use their identity as a shield against criticism, against accountability, right? Against retribution. Oh, you're only doing this because I'm black. Oh, you're only saying that because you're racist. It's a way to deflect around the actual substance of the argument. I just did a tirade against corporate media, the Vivek, right? They're trying to label Vivek a sexist merely because he happened to criticize the RNC chair, a media anchor, and a GOP candidate. Guess what? The identity of all these three people in power have? They all were women. And guess what they try to say Vivek was? A sexist. Identity politics, right? And my argument is, if you want to get better, do you get better by getting positive affirmations, or do you get better when someone says, hey, this needs a little bit more work, this is not quite right, hey, you didn't do it right, you didn't do it correctly, I think this was poorly written, right? The red X of death on your writing paper. Who's going to become a better student? The student that faces criticism, or the student that gets no criticism? Obviously the student that gets criticism, because the student that gets criticism has an actual objective measure saying, hey, you need to get better. While the person that gets no criticism thinks everything they're doing is perfect and fine, and they don't need to change for no one. And then people wonder why women are entitled, why women are acting like insufferable children, why women are on social media talking about why they need to work. They're too sexy, allegedly. That's what they're saying on social media. All you have to do is go on TikTok. Women are complaining about, oh my God, why the world's like this? I need to find me a rich man. Why? Because they feel like they're entitled to something. Because that's how they've been brought up. That's how the culture sheltered them. I have a problem with identity politics because it tells you to treat someone differently based on the color of their skin, based on their gender, and based on how they identify. And a lot of people are changing their identities because they don't want to face criticism. Because facing criticism is hard. It takes discipline to accept criticism. You learn better if you lose or you win. Let me know in the comment section. You learn better when you lose. So if no one tells you, hey, you got a little something in your mouth, how are you going to get better? And this is what's going on with the pro-Israel side right now. Is that any little questioning, hey, isn't it kind of weird that Israel is the size of New Jersey and it took 6 hours for IDF to come and respond? Don't you find that strange? You're anti-Semite. Like, no, this is not a productive conversation, especially when we're here in America, a multiracial, multi-ethnic society. We're not a monoculture. Yeah, sure, white people are the majority, but still, there's a sizable minority in this country. You can't have one world view on the whole situation. I digress, and I want Tucker to finish his. I want Tucker to talk because Tucker brings up an interesting point, and then we'll move on to the next clips that I got for you guys. Let's get back into the video.
Sorry about the fire
I
department.
agree.
Yeah,
I get why donors are mad.
Imagine,
And by the way, I support donors giving money to things they agree with.
Yes, I support that.
I strongly do.
Yep.
The part that, and so I have no problem with that at all.
Same.
You don't like it, don't pay for it. Good for you. However, then I thought, well, wait a second. If the biggest donors at, say, Harvard have decided, well, we're going to shut it down now, where were you the last 10 years when they were calling for white genocide? You were allowing this. And then I found myself really hating those people, actually. That you're okay with that? On what grounds were you okay with that?
And this is what I've been trying to explain to the pro-Israel lobby, that what you are seeing as lack of support is people that are asking the question is, where were you as we have endured all of this?
You were paying for it, actually.
Right.
You were paying for it.
You were paying for it.
Because you were calling my children immoral for their skin color. You paid for that.
And
so why shouldn't I be mad at you? I don't.
Yeah. Why? Like, it's almost karma in a way, right? Now, you know, people, you know, obviously because of my skin color, people think black people are naturally anti-Semitic, right? But my argument is, and this is my point to identity politics. Identity politics says you can't criticize black people because it's not their fault. You allow black people, right, to criticize everybody and their mama because they happen to be in positions of power. Oh, you got white privilege, you got this and that. And the minute they notice that, hey, Jewish people, they seem to be doing well in society too, just like white people are. And then you get some criticism for it. That's when you want to overreact. Kanye West, example. Kyrie Irving, example. And you see how this thing, it's almost like a karma. And that's a sentiment some people are getting. Like, oh, where were you when they were pushing this hateful rhetoric on other people? Oh, you didn't care. It wasn't your problem. But now it's something specific to you. Now you want everyone to care the same way you do. That's why I say I'm not entitled to people's sympathy. I'm not entitled to people's support. But it seems like there's this little entitlement from the pro-Israel side that, oh, all of America needs to bend over backwards and give more money and be morally supportive. Hey, look, I morally support that. You're allowed to respond how you believe deemed fit. But it has to be kind of measured because, you know, the world's watching Israel. And that's all I'm saying as an American. Because I'm like, yo, I'm seeing 80,000 people dying of fentanyl poisoning. That get no coverage, right? People, veterans barely get any support, but they're the ones who sacrifice the most for our freedoms and the rights that we all benefit from. They get no support, but people miles away who have not served us in any personal capacity, we're supposed to be, oh my God, we care a lot about them. Because if I go by the identity politics thing, I'm supposed to care about what's best for Americans, what's for Americans, and that's all. That's it. But then it makes no sense. It naturally creates division. Identity politics naturally creates division, and that's what you're seeing here. Now it's getting exposed. Oh, you only cared about yourself. You don't see us as one team Americans. You see yourself as a Jew, and you see me as a black, white, Mexican, Asian. You see us as an other. And we all happen, and this is the problem with a national identity. This is why I'm so pro Vivek. Vivek called this out. Like, we don't have a shared vision of what America should be. And this is how we fall into problems like this. We have no unity in this country. Right? What did what's his name? Abraham Lincoln said. He had a quote that a house that is divided cannot stand. This is our culture today. You have people trying to unite us again. Like I'll say I'm part of that cult, that culture. Hey, we all are Americans here. I'm American first, black last. That's how I tend to think about things. This is my country. America's my country. You want to talk ish about my country, you gotta see me. Right? The same way if you talk ish about Africa, all the Africans are gonna get mad about you. That's the same emotional ties I have to America. Because without America, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't even exist without America. My parents met here in America. But I'm supposed to hate this country because I happen to have a certain pigmentation of skin. You're supposed to believe me that I face racism because of the color of my skin. With no proof. You have no proof I face racism. But you're supposed to believe me because I'm black. Identity politics. People use it as a cudgel, weapon, shield, whatever you want to call it. Me, I like to say people like to use their identity as an alibi. And we need to dispense with this culture, this concept of, oh, you have privilege because of your skin color. Oh, you have you face inequality because of your skin color. All of this is superficial assumptions. But I digress. Let's get back into the video.
Don't understand.
And so that is, obviously you have a ton of white people that are asking this question, and they're now being called anti-Semitic. And I think that that's wrong. I think these are meaningful questions that deserve to be answered. Why was this sort of verbiage allowed into the curriculum? I mean, could you imagine if in the curriculum it said that every Jewish person born is a terrorist? This is systematically what has been said.
I would be totally opposed to that.
You're learning this, not even just, by the way, at the college campus level, in high schools. I've covered this on my show at high schools, that they are now allowing children to stand up in an auditorium during, not Black Lives Matter week, during, what is February?
Black History Month.
Whole month of February, African American month. Black History Month.
Black History.
I was like totally blanking. I'm like, what is
brain.
February? Black History Month. They were allowing at this very elite school $50,000 per a month to attend this school, per year to attend this school, for these children to stand up on a stage and yell in an auditorium. Black kids were allowed to be on the stage. White kids were sitting down at this elite school, and they said, you don't know what we lived through. You don't understand how your whiteness impacts me. This is going on in New York City right now. That is explicit anti-white racism that is happening. And I covered it on my show extensively. Nobody cared. There was no bus calling these kids anything wrong. And so trying to explain that, of why people maybe are not reacting with the amount of vigor that you would like to see, is now being interpreted as anti-Semitism. So everyone's being called anti-Semitism.
It's a little bit like watching the city of San Francisco in the week before Xi Jinping shows up become totally clean, sparkling clean. There are no junk.
Like no one cares. Oh yeah, you're just silly Americans. No one needs to. We don't need to keep your streets clean, but Xi Jinping's coming. We gotta clean up the streets, right? And they made some great points there, right? And people are calling them anti-Semitic because they're challenging a perspective. Oh, people who are neutral on this, people who are anti-war on this, is anti-Semitic. It's the same liable as if I said that, hey, if you don't believe systematic racism exists, you're a racist. It's the same claim. It's a smear, an emotional response. Because at the end of the day, you can't justify the hypocrisy that a lot of these donors just displayed. You're donating money to colleges all willy-nilly when they were pushing racism against white people and all this nonsense. But the minute that vitriol came back to you, oh no, now you want us to care the same way. This is why I said the charge of anti-Semitism against people who are neutral or doesn't really care what's going on it falls on deaf ears, because there's like, yo, when it was happening to us, you donors, you pro-Israel donors were quiet. Y'all still donating to these colleges. You're still donating them even though they were preaching hateful rhetoric. But now that hateful rhetoric is directed at you, you expect everyone else to care. This is why identity politics destroys culture. This is why identity politics is merely a means to perpetuate prejudice. That's it. That's all it means. That's all it means. That's all it's supposed to do. But I digress. So I want to react to a Steven Crowder video. I want to give you guys some commentary. And this is another way of identity politics play a role into how we view the world.
Point is, they wanted to keep him out.
How we disseminate information is that when you say truths that is based on identity, like for instance, the video you're going to watch is student can't handle racist stat about superior black athletes, right? When it's the truth, but it sounds racist because you point out black people, even though in the NBA, 74% of the players in the NBA are black, right? And there's realistic, real science reasons for why blacks tend to be superior athletes, and also why blacks tend to be athletes, right? I say it's the culture. You'll find a black kid more likely to be practicing for a basketball team playing basketball at 2 years old before he can even walk. He has a ball in his hand. The same way you'll find an Asian already studying calculus by the time he turns 10. Like it's behavior. Behavior and culture plays a part into why these outcomes happen. And people's assumption is the minute you bring in a stat about identity, people are going to go, oh my God, you're being racist. Even if it's facts, even if it's based on things that are just not merely based on the color of skin. Is you're just identifying a group. And I think identity is two ways. It's something you're a part of in an abstract way, like, hey, I'm an American. I'm a nationalist view, and then you got a racial genetic view. But I digress. I think I'm rambling too much, guys. Let's get into the video.
Because we knew that there was some black speed and power, my friend.
I feel like that's extremely racist to say.
Really? To say that black people are better athletes than white people in certain sports?
I think so, yeah.
Really? Have you watched an NBA game?
I'm not going to say either way.
Is it racist to say that the majority of the NBA is black?
I'm not going to say either way.
Is it racist for me to say that black people are typically better at basketball than the average white person?
I have no idea. I don't know the statistic.
Do you consider a biological male if the sporting organization, the governing body, says you have to compete with biological males, or in a third division, an intergender division, but not with biological females? You see that as discrimination?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so your solution is to let so you do have a solution, is to let biological males compete with women.
I think I could compare your point to mine, where you'd see in the back segregation, right?
In the what?
Segregation.
Okay,
People,
yes.
or any colored people in the United States. There's a different baseball league for both. Would you not call that discrimination?
Yeah, of course that's discrimination by
Absolutely.
definition, yeah. And then all of a sudden when I can say this because former Vice President Joe Biden said it, the United Negro League, once they mixed it, guess what? There weren't too many great white baseball players.
I believe there still is.
There are some, but the point is, they wanted to keep him out because we knew that there was some black speed and power, my friend.
So that's the point I try to make, is that there's a differentiation, right? I think identity is like something important, right? But I think there needs to be a ladder of priorities of what we consider, like what are our go-to assumptions when an outcome happen, right? Because right now, how we currently view identity is we see it as the primary cause of disparity, right? Okay, black kids tend to be better athletes than white kids. Why is that? It's a genetic component, right? It's not merely because they're black, in my view. It's merely, hey, like these people come from, like, if you look at Africa, harsh climate. So physical wise, these to survive in that climate, you have to be physically more athletic to survive in those warmer, hot climates. If you're a fat person, you go out in some hot summer, bro, you dying out there, right? Like if you stay in a warm climate, you're more likely to be lean, right? You have less body fat, aka you insulate less heat. You living like you Gucci over there in a hotter climate. But if you take that same lean, mean fighting machine person and you put them in a cold, an area that's tend to be cold, they'll be shaking like a leaf. Opposite example, you put a fat person in colder weather, they'll be more adaptive handling it because fat insulates heat. But if I put that same fat person in a hotter climate, they're sweating their A off. So I don't know. I think it's both ways, it's nature, nurture, what came first. I just think it's a in the middle, right? I think there's some validity that genetics do play a big role in why black people tend to be superior athletes, but I just think it's our body composition. It's a lot of factors, but yes, I do agree that genetically the results speak for itself. All you have to do is look at the outcome. There's a reason why the NBA is 74% black. Now it's becoming a little bit more internationalized, right? The only white players that I know are from the international leagues, for the most part anyway. But there's something to that. The results speak for itself. And you pretty much, what liberals hate about people saying, oh, black people tend to be better athletes, is the fact that they confuse pattern recognition with racism. And I think that's what's going on right now in identity politics, is that when you recognize an identity, hey, Asian kids are smart. That's pattern recognition, because who's overrepresented in Yale? Asians, even though they're a minority group. Who has higher income on average? Asians, even though they're a minority group. It's pattern recognition. And just because you recognize that pattern, a liberal or someone who believes in identity politics will call you racist for assuming that because of someone's skin color, when all you're doing is playing the odds. I have a high likelihood of success of being right if I think this Asian person's a smart kid. Pattern recognition. That's what's going on here. I digress, guys. I digress.
I feel like that's extremely racist to say.
Really? To say that black people are
absolutely.
better athletes than white people in certain sports?
I think so, yeah.
Really? Have you watched an NBA game?
I'm not going to say either way.
Is it racist to say that the majority of the NBA is black?
I'm not going to say either way. I don't
Is
know
it
the
racist for me to
statistics.
say that black people are typically better at basketball than the average white person?
I have no idea. I don't know the statistics.
I guess by definition it's racist, but I don't think that you would find a single black person here who disagrees.
I think that's a pretty broad point you're making. And obviously, I'm not one to say I'm not a person of color.
Well, you just said it's racist, so you did speak on
I
behalf
would
of
call
black
that
people.
racist, absolutely.
To say that black people they make up
To
a
say
higher
that-
percentage of the NBA than white people.
No, to say that they're... That's not what you said.
In general,
Sure. What did you exactly say?
let me give you a different one. In general, black people, black males, at the elite level are faster than white males.
I feel like that's a racist statement. Like, there
Have you
shouldn't
checked
be
any of the
other
land
sport.
speed records?
See, like, it's not a racist statement to say that. It's pattern recognition. If you recognize a pattern, just the same way, like, when I make my points about how when black kids or black students disproportionately fail at math, right? If you look at the National Education Association, 12 black high school students who graduate from high school have a lower proficiency rate than in math than other groups of people. You're gonna say, oh, the math test must be racist. No, I would say, hey, look, it's pattern recognition. Black kids tend to not take school as seriously as other groups of people does, right? There's a reason why black males don't graduate college at the same rate as black women. See, two people from the same race, but you see how their outcomes are two different things. You're not going to say that the college system is sexist towards black men if black women are graduating with college degrees at a higher and disproportional rate than black males. It's just pattern recognition, right? And this is where identity politics kind of fails, is that people don't dig any deeper past the superficial. Identity politics is a superficial metric to judge outcomes and actions. Hey, okay, there must be more to it. Oh, these people just happen to be black. That's how I tend to look at identity. Well, I digress. I'll give it a few more minutes and then I'll move on to the next video.
I don't know the
Look at the
statistics,
top
of
10.
course.
You're not going to find a Whitaker. You're
I
not
see
going
what
to
you're
find
saying.
an
I
Irish
don't
last
agree.
name. You don't agree,
I don't agree
with the world
your
records.
statement. Your statement.
My statement that at the elite level, black males tend to run faster times than white males.
That's not what you said.
At the elite level, black males are faster than white males.
That's not what you originally said.
That is what I said.
In this past point, but earlier, your statement was the characteristics of black people versus any other person.
That black people tend to be
I'm
more
not
successful in
saying-
athletics than white people, yes.
I'm not saying the statistics are racist. I'm saying you're...
Just like if I said, hey, Asian people tend to be more successful in academics, tend to make more money, and tend to have better credit scores than other group of people. For me, assuming that doesn't make me racist. It means I observe reality. And I think there needs to be a big difference between this, right? So here's the final clip I will probably show. I know it's like I'm really trying to stay within the hour, but I want to spend a lot of time on this. So this clip is heated. Are white people too fragile, right? And this is another wrinkle about identity politics. And it's all like if you want to get too short don't read type of thing. It's too long don't read is identity politics is merely based on assumptions, right? And one assumption is racist if it's not based on any, pattern recognition, not any result, right? If I say the NBA is majority black and therefore I assume that black people tend to be better at sports than other groups of people, other races of people, that's not a racist statement. That's just me observing something in reality. If you say the other way, hey, black people are naturally dumb because of X, Y reasons. And if I ask you, okay, what's your proof? And you don't have any proof, you can assume that person is being racist. But racism, it used to be, this is my problem with our culture today. Racism used to be it used to be something you did. Hey, I'm discriminating against you because of your identity. That was what racism was supposed to mean. Now we sit here, we change definitions. Oh, if you assume I'm a certain way because of the color of my skin, that makes you racist. Just like I assume if a woman is scantily dressed and I assume she's a prostitute People want to say, "Oh, Kenny, that's sexist," but I'm like, "Yo, prostitutes tend to dress like that. Why not? Why wouldn't I think she wasn't one? If you wear a police uniform and I assume you're a policeman, is it really my fault?" And this is where I think language, we have been too loose with our language as a culture. And I think we need to get more specific about what we mean when we say these terms, right? What is racism? What is that? You discriminate me based on the color of my skin, based on metrics and things that I cannot control. You have an unreasoned hatred towards me merely because of the color of my skin. Okay, those are valid definitions of racism. But racism isn't, hey, bro, you play basketball? You probably pretty good at basketball, huh? And a black person go, "Oh my God, did you just assume that I was good at basketball because of my skin color? Racist." That's not racism. And this is the problem we have. A lot of people want to play victimhood. A lot of people want to play victim. And in this culture, we glorify victims more than we glorify heroes. We used to glorify people that, despite obstacles and disadvantages, they still became successful in life, right? Ex-slaves that died millionaires. Someone who been in slavery, who was a slave, got free, and before he died, he was a millionaire. We're supposed to be praising that. When we learn about Black history, we're supposed to be learning about that. But what we glorify in our culture. Remember, what you glorify out in the open is what you incentivize the future to be. So when you put out this narrative, or you only want to show history when Black people were slaves, when they were victims, when they were oppressed, people want to say, "Oh, how can I be the biggest victim?" Because victimhood gets praise. Victimhood gets glorified. Victimhood gets recognition. This is why you got all these people in Gen Z trying to identify as everything other than a straight white male. Because you don't get recognition for being a straight white male. This is why you got white women out here saying, "We don't want to date, we don't like white men." On TikTok, you know how they go, "Oh, Black dudes only," and then they go, as a representative of the Black race, "We do not want this woman." Like, joking around like that. Identity politics, man. We always talk about how diversity is our strength. We want diversity and inclusion. But it only seems to, diversity and inclusion seems to pick and choose who they want to include. Usually it's a white dude. And that's unfair. Because I know if it was the other shoe on the foot, I would want other people to speak up on the unfairness that would happen to me if society didn't like Black males. But that's not what we're doing here. And then when the retribution comes and hit us, we want everyone else to stand up for us. But when it was hitting someone else, we didn't want to do nothing because it wasn't affecting us. That's the sad reality about identity politics. And I don't understand why people have this narrative about that it's a unifying thing. But I digress. Let's get into the video. Are white people too fragile? Let's get into it.
How would you categorize race relations between Black and white people in the United States today?
From a media standpoint, division.
Welcome back for part 2 of the newest series, Black and White on the Gray Issues. Last time I took to the streets to see if relations between Black and white Americans were actually as bad as legacy media would have you believe. And what do you know? The narrative couldn't be further from the truth. Turns out you can actually find some common ground and have great dialogues when you actually start talking with people. That being said, I'd be lying if I said it was entirely smooth sailing. If you talk to enough people, you will eventually find an outlier, and this was an outlier, which took place in our final interview of the day. Now, without spoiling too much, see if you can tell how this particular conversation went differently.
Are the reason
We
we
would
this
still
in the
be
first
slaves
place.
if it was for you, baby.
Sorry. The Black lady says, "We will still be slaves if it was up to you." Did this lady not learn history? Does this lady not learn that, about 500,000 white people died in the Civil War to free the slaves? Did the Black lady not know when they were voting to give Black people the rights to be free, whatever, not a single Black person voted for their own freedom? All of them were white people voting to release and give slaves rights and equal protection under the law, even though, Democratic states end up not doing it. But they're the ones who took the first steps for the civil rights movement to take it forward. Did this lady not know that the historically black colleges that they're so proud of, half of the money was put up by white businessmen from the North? Did this black lady not know history where there were blacks that lived in the North that was never slaves? See, this is what I'm talking about, bro. Just based on her identity, she assumed, she colored all white people. Oh, yeah. If it was all white people are bad, how is that not racism? Identity politics justifies racism. If you're part of the excluded group, usually a white person. Now Asians are starting to become this way because of education, because they do too well, right? If you're in a position of power, privilege, and success, people use identity politics to make you feel guilty about that. It is division. I agree. It is division.
All right, just for a second. It may be that I'm a little old-fashioned. That seems a little wild to me. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Did this woman just offer fair assessment or pure, unadulterated insanity? Let me ask you, where would you put, or how would you categorize race relations between black and white people in the United States today?
I think from a media standpoint, division.
Right.
I think that's where we are. I think that there is division. I do. I think there's definitely some microaggressions and things like that that are apparent.
Bruh, did she just use microaggressions, bro? Oh man, I'm gonna pause this video a lot. Microaggression. What is that? I still don't know to this day what a microaggression is. For me, this is how I'll define a microaggression: a perceived slight against you, with no proof, no evidence, right? Let's say a lady had a bad day and I try to talk to her and she was like she gave me the silent treatment. I'm like, oh, she must not like black men. Oh, she must be a racist. I'm assuming all that. That's how I see microaggressions, bro. But hey, I'll let her finish talking.
But on my everyday interacting, I think it's an array of things. I think there's some positivity. There's some growth opportunities. I think I have within my circle. It's diverse.
Yeah.
And I love that it's diverse, but I also think that we're not having those conversations within my diverse community.
So when you say diverse, do you mean racially? Do you mean
Racially.
ideologically, politically?
Politically and racially.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's why I call that a lie. Politically, they don't want no political diversity, right? If like let's be real here. Like if I mention my views, right, in a predominantly black area, college, whatever, people will shout me down. People will try to bully me. People will try to threaten physical violence against me merely because I don't believe the same thing they do. Identity politics pushes for conformity. It doesn't push for diversity. They only push for diversity if it benefits the oppressed group. But the minute the oppressed group is a majority, aka the NBA, right? You don't hear the NBA marching for affirmative action in the NBA. You don't hear them doing that. Why? Because 74% of the people that work in there is a minority, right? But God forbid, if the NBA was 74% white, affirmative action will come to you faster than you can say hello. But when it's the other way, no, we don't need diversity because it is diverse. How? Majority of it is black. How is that diverse? And that's why I show you identity politics don't respect racial groups as equals. It has a hierarchy. It has a class, right? Marxists should be ashamed of themselves with identity politics because essentially you're giving black people a privilege that you don't give white people. Because you assume white people have a privilege merely because of the way they were born and not the outcomes that they get from their family, from their environment, from their community. And it's sad that schools, educations condition us to think in these lines, in this framework. But then when you call out in the open, like, hey, look, how is this fair? How is this about equality? How does this cure racism if you're doing this? That's a question we all should ask ourselves that. But I digress. Let's get back into the video.
So you have white, black, Republican, Democrat, and all in your circle of friends?
Yes, I have pretty much everything.
What would you say has kind of helped you? I think learning from different people helps you grow. What would you say has helped you grow more? Having people of different races in your circle of friends, or people of different ideologies, people from different walks of life?
I think walks of life.
Yeah.
I think you learn more. I think because I can meet another African American person who's had a different upbringing than I do, and I'm learning what their struggle looks like versus my struggle, because it's very different. I think it's really truly about being open.
Yeah.
Open to listening, open to learning, and having the conversations.
See, and this is my problem too. Like, and this is one example of how identity politics gets used as a shield. She talks about how she wants an open conversation, open this. Okay, if I was a white person, let's say I was a white person making the points that I'm making here, that, hey, black people are at the bottom, not because of the color of their skin, not because of systematic racism, not because of generational curses. It's merely because the community as a whole made bad decisions, and therefore they got bad outcomes. They don't focus a lot on education. They don't invest money into education. They expect other groups of people, the taxpayers' dollars, to fund the education for their benefit, but they don't want to contribute their own money for their group's benefit, right? They expect everyone else to do it, but not them, right? And they decide to make decisions and outcomes that's detrimental to their group. Single motherhood's a big example of this. Single moms are the poorest demographic in America, regardless of race. Your community, the black community, you have 70% of your women that are single. No, sorry, I lied. 70% of your mothers are single. Out of all the racial groups, you have the largest percentage of single mothers in your community. Single moms are more likely to be in poverty than married couples. So if I make the assumption that, hey, the black community has low wealth, like wealth inequality, income gaps, merely because, hey, this group has a large percentage of single motherhoods. So that means a large percentage of them are in poverty. That's why black people tend to be poorer than other groups of people. It's a valid argument because I gave you step by step how I came to that conclusion, right? But because I'm a white person, remember this, in my example, I'm pretending to be a white person. Because I had the wrong skin color and I said that, what we're going to hear them say? Say it with me now. You're racist. And here's the funny part. Here's the oxymoronic statement about these people. They'll use racism to call you racist. Oh, you're a white man. You're not supposed to be saying that. That's racist. Is what the guy said valid or not valid? It's valid, yes, but it came from a white person, so therefore it's not correct. That's racist. That's prejudice. You're discriminating his opinion based on the color of his skin, right? And this is my problem. It's a two-way street. Black people always get mad how they face racism and discrimination and all that stuff. And I always ask myself, are these people facing racism and discrimination because of the color of their skin, or because of the behavior they displayed and they getting what they were pushing out? You say, oh, you better not be no white girl to my cookout, right? Let's play the storyline here. Black mom tell her black son he better not bring no white girl back home. Okay. Everyone's fine with that. White man tell white daughter don't bring a black boy at home. Outrage will happen because the white man said the exact same thing a black lady will say to their kids, because they want to keep it in the race. Why we view one statement racist and the other one not racist? Because the person's black. Using racism to justify racism, justifying prejudice. Now, to me, I don't care. Look, like discrimination, it's okay on a personal level. Who you date, if you don't want to date black women, that's your right. That's a personal level. Freedom of association. But institutionally, that's wrong. I agree with the scale. Yeah, based on the scale, it's wrong. But personal discrimination is fine. If you don't want to date white girls, that's fine. You don't want to date black men, that's fine. If you want to discriminate against women, you don't date women, that's fine. We don't have a problem with that. But for some reason, if a white man opened his mouth and he said, I do not date black women, racist, we're supposed to cry about it. Because he's perceived to have privilege. He's perceived to have power. If you look at the most successful group in our country, it's Asian people, a minority group. But for some reason, we still think white people, white privilege. If this country was a country about white supremacy, white people will be at the top in every industry, and every it don't matter academically, sports wise, we'll see them all over the place. But for some reason, the Asian person is able to show them out, beat them. How is it a white supremacist system if Asian people are doing so well in this country? White people are everywhere because they're the majority. It's not because they're white. It's because they're the majority. If we're in Africa and I see black people in every position of power, it's not because of racism. It's because they're the largest portion of the population. So the odds are in their favor that they will be represented at a large scale. Logic, simple. But they want to focus, but they want us to feel emotional because, and this is why I say black power relies on white guilt. If white people didn't feel guilty about being white, none of this ish they pulling will work. They call it this cry bullying, manipulative. And I think it's about time other groups of people start disregarding unfactual, unproven claims or accusations of racism because it hurt a minority group's feelings. I think if we can get past that, I think identity politics will be on its way out. But it takes courage. It takes guts for people to call it out. Because right now they have the power. They got people in institutions lending them their ear. But I think if we become like disinterested, don't care anymore, all this stuff will go away. Because they're rewarded because they see it works. That's why they keep pushing it. I digress. Let's get back into the video.
So you're saying that in your day-to-day, your experiences have been good, probably because of your circle of friends. Compared to the media, sounds like you're saying there is some division out there, but not so much in your circle of friends.
Not within my circle of friends because I choose them, right?
Right.
So this is my choice. It's my choose to have people in my circle that I don't have to fight with all the time, that we are open and we learn from one another. But I take a look at where we are in their schools. They go to private schools.
Okay.
So there's complete division with racial divide, seeing our black boys in the private school arena get in trouble where the white boys don't get in trouble for the same offense. I see that every day.
Why don't you just take them out of private schools?
Because at the end of the day, it's a better education.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
Because that's got to be tough then if you have to choose. Like what kind of...
And the one critique I'll say about her answer about how, when white kids do something, they get in less trouble than the black kids. My butt always asks, was it a repeat offense? Did the black kids, was this the second time the black kids did something while it's the first time the white kids did something? That's what I like to focus on. I like to focus on behavior, right? I consider race last. I think that's what every smart person should do. Consider race last, consider behavior first. How did this person's behavior contribute to the disproportionate outcome that he get compared to someone else? This is what I'm talking about. Identity politics, it conditions people to look for the identity first. When there's inequality, we look for identity first. Women make less money than men, identity first. Oh, it's because I'm a woman, that's why I make less money. No, it's not the fact that you take more vacation time. You take more time off, right? You work less hours. No, that's not the reason why you get paid less. It's because you're a woman. Oh, of course. This is what I'm talking about. People using identity as a shield to cover up their inadequacies, their incompetence, their lack of skill and ability. What determines your outcome more? Your skin color or how you behave? If I put a suit over you that disguises your identity and you go out into the world, you'll still get the same outcomes you got regardless of how people perceive you, because you're the biggest impact on your life. You're mostly responsible for the impacts and outcomes that you receive in life. You cannot control what happens to you. You only can control how you respond. You got paid less than the guy who happens to be a male. How are you going to respond? Cry and say it's because you're a woman, or say, that guy works on average longer hours than I do. He takes less vacation time than I do. He negotiates men are more willing to negotiate their salaries more than I do. Hey, instead of looking at my identity and looking at the fact that I'm a woman, how about I start working longer hours? How about I start taking less vacation time? Hey, let me start negotiating salary raises with my employer, even if it makes me feel emotionally uncomfortable. I'm gonna see if I can get better outcomes for that. And in my view, you will get better outcomes for that. But the identity politics has conditioned us as a culture to look at identity, look at superficial metrics that have no correlation to the outcomes we'll get in life. Now, it could play a factor, right? Romantically, right? We used to have systems in the past that discriminated against people the same way, but now we don't have those systems anymore. But now we're evaluating people on these same metrics. Like we removed discrimination from a legal perspective. Actually, we still have it. It's called affirmative action, and now we do it on a personal level because that's how school educated us. It's craziness. But when I say, Democrats are the party of racism, they just changed their stripes, people want to get mad at me for saying that. But I digress.
Things that they get into trouble for that white kids wouldn't. Like, what do you think?
A fist fight. I brought it up last year. If you see 2 black kids in a fist fight, they'll probably get suspended. You see 2 white kids in a fist fight, which rarely happens in private school, then it's a pat on the back. It rarely
I don't know. I
happens.
can't tell if you're joking or if you're serious. Is it rare, like white kids get into a fight in a private school, or are you saying they get in just as many fights?
No, fight in general at private school is very rare.
Okay, in
Right.
general.
Yeah.
Whether white or black.
Whether whatever race it is.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah. I was raised in Canada where we had a zero tolerance policy, so it didn't matter if you defended yourself or you started the fight, you were all suspended, which I think is morally reprehensible.
I think
I was suspended because I got punched in the face.
well, that's not good. No, because you were defending yourself.
Yeah, I didn't really. I mostly just turtled.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna need you to defend next time.
I learned that later on. But see, at that
Right.
point, I was a little bitch is what
Right.
I was. I didn't know. I was afraid. The kid was 2 years older than me.
Oh, well, that's not good.
14 to 16,
Yeah,
it's a
not good.
huge difference. You're not going to do anything. You just turtle.
And just maturity, body, it's the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing.
The whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, it was a terrible experience.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good example. We weren't teaching kids that, hey, not all violence is equivalent. Like if someone attacks you, you're saying this as a mom, you would probably want your kids to defend themselves.
To defend. Yeah, of course I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's why it says there's a legal defense
Yes.
for defending yourself.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
You mentioned microaggressions. So you're the first person today who's mentioned that. What do you mean by that?
Microaggressions meaning they say little things, they meaning non-people of color, will say little things not realizing that it's a microaggression, not realizing.
AKA not realizing it offends me. All right. If I say, you failed the math test because you're not good at math, you suck, you dumb, you're going to assume, he thinks I'm dumb because I'm a black woman, I'm this, that. I'm like, no, let's study more. I think you need to study more. Because of my skin color, he's implying that I don't study, I don't do enough homework. Or it's you being offended. You're looking for something to be offended about. Microaggressions can never really be solved or resolved. It's just another reason to complain, to cause friction, and yeah, we really need to like we really need to stop peddling this stuff. I think it's not good for us as a society, as a culture. Right. I think this concept, this mindset, it teaches helplessness to a lot of people because at the end of the day, race is something you can never change. And if you tie all your negative outcomes from the fact that you're born a certain group, then you're going to be like, there's no point. I can never change the fact that I'm a black man. And if it's set at birth, then what's the point of even trying? And you discourage a lot of people from trying to succeed in life, to overcome in life. This is why black men don't really try hard in school. Because you put this expectation that the system is against them. White man gonna be on their neck. They're gonna be like, what's the point? Let me try to finesse the system, aka break the law because the white man's laws. I don't want to follow the white man's laws. But in the day, you still get a consequence for it. You don't want to follow the law, sure, you're gonna get a consequence though. You can't avoid accountability though. And they don't get. And then when they're disproportionately in jail, they're gonna say, the justice system is racist. When they out of their own mouth they say they don't want to follow the white man's laws. When we all voted on it democratically. This is some of the craziness. This is how identity politics bleed into everything. It's a sword and a shield. And we need to stop it. We just need to stop it. Like these people need to get some help. I'll give this video 2 more minutes and then I'm going to wrap up the stream.
That it's hurtful, that it's racism because it's so micro.
So, what would be an example of that?
My hair. Oh my God, can I touch your hair? Oh my God, is that real?
That's pattern recognition. Like I said, pattern recognition is not racism, right? If I recognize a pattern, hey, the weave market is a $6 billion industry. I know how black hair look because I'm a black man and I come from a black mom.
If I see your hair lie down like that, I'm be like, okay, she either pressed her hair, hot pressed her hair, or she's wearing a wig, aka a weave. So I'm gonna assume, because pattern recognition, I'm judging something based on the results, not based on an assumption or a prejudice that I have against you. I want to check if my theory was right. That's it. But you want to be offended by that. I don't understand people, bro. This is some craziness right here. Oh my God.
Things of that nature, or we didn't do that. Or, it's just, Carrington, you want to give me some microaggressions?
Uh-oh.
Your hair's not real. You speak so. You're so articulate.
well.
You're so
Yeah.
you speak so well, even though I'm just using
Come over a
basic
little bit.
English.
Bro, I speak well, right? I grew up in, like, growing up, my mom gave me the business, but she told me, yo, you're going to learn proper English. That's what my mom, and anyway, my mom wanted to use me to learn proper English as well. So I remember when I was going to school, that was the main talking point. Like, a lot of black kids gave me more, black kids gave me a hard time speaking proper English than any group of people in my life. Ask anybody who's articulate. But this girl want to say, oh, you know, because end of the day, a lot of this, like, I remember, like, this is me interpreting what she's saying, because I experienced the same thing because I speak proper English. White people, Asian people, not Asian people, sorry. White people be like, oh man, you talk so well, man. You talk so mature. Like, they talk in a way like they're congratulating me, like, oh wow, you're not what I expected you to be. Like, they're like pleasantly surprised. But in this case, these women are getting mad at that. Like, oh, you're supposed to not assume anything. Look, it's human nature to assume a lot of things, right? We assume lions are dangerous until you give us a reason for us not to think lions are dangerous. Why? Because of pattern recognition. We just saw this dude get mauled by a lion. My butt ain't going over there. I'm making an assumption there. Are you going to get offended for the lion because I'm assuming the lion's dangerous? How you know the lion's not trained? How you know the lion's a herbivore? Bruh, I just saw a lion mauled somebody. I'm not taking chances. You could take a chance with your life, but I'm not taking a chance with mine. Right? And because it's inherent in human nature. That's like, and then we want to call that racism. No, racism is followed by an action, not an assumption that you have, not how you feel the person did, not your imagination. Oh, I think he thought this. I felt like this was racism. No, it doesn't make it racism. The fact is, you didn't like speak up. Like, end of the day, the reality is most black people don't speak proper English. Right? That's the reality. So when someone hear you speak proper English, they're surprised because they don't come across that. That's pattern recognition. This is the same way if someone says, hey, you must be good at basketball. Are you good at basketball? You're not going to be offended about that because you know, okay, yeah, 74% of the NBA is black. Like, we need to start telling these people, hey, is you sure that's a racist statement? Why is that a racist statement? Like, we need to start questioning these people, and y'all need to start giving them a lot more pushback. Because this person never got pushback about some of the assumptions that they have, and that's why they run around thinking this way. But I digress.
Because they assume I'm going to be speaking using AAVE or African American vernacular or Ebonics, whatever you want to say it, put it as. But yeah, it's just things like that. But little things. I remember in 6th grade, somebody said my hair looked like spaghetti hair because I had twist. And I don't know what y'all, look it up. Look up twist. I had like brown twisted, and they said my hair looked like burnt spaghetti, and that's a microaggression, right? You don't realize it, but it is hurtful in the long run. It makes you.
So the person doesn't realize they offended you. Okay, speak up. Say, hey, I didn't like that comment you made. That, bruh. But we have this idea like, oh, people have to walk around eggshells around black people, and this doesn't make, to me, this doesn't make black people look good. It makes black people look fragile. Makes black people look weak. Oh, you can't take any criticism. Oh, you can't take a joke. People don't want to be around someone like that. Can you be around somebody that can't handle jokes, can't handle jabs? No, that's not someone fun to be around. You walking around eggshells. Oh, I hope I don't offend them. I hope I don't put my pencil down too loud. It might offend them. No one wants to be around a person like that. This is why the identity politics causes division. Because you're a black girl, any little slight you feel, we supposed to believe you when you say you're feeling offended. When back in the day, your dad would tell you, man, they probably didn't mean anything bad by it. Yes, you doing all that thinking. Did you ask them that if they meant something bad by that? No, you just assumed that. How you know? You can't judge intentions. Humans suck at judging intentions. We only can judge actions. Did the person been mean to you? Did the person make fun of you? or they were trying to give you a compliment and you took it the wrong way. This is how it seems like to me. Microaggression is someone gave you a compliment, you misinterpret it as an insult, and you say it's a microaggression. Oh my God, bro. Like, I'm telling you, this is what I'm saying. We live in a fragile culture. And I think it's because we made the, I don't know. Let me not talk. Let's continue with the video.
You feel othered, and that's not okay.
When I was in high school, I had I had a horrible haircut, and it was cut very short on the sides and tall. And I was told that I looked like a retard Patrick Dempsey.
Nice.
So that wasn't so much a microaggression as a.
That's just aggression.
That's just aggression.
Right, yeah.
But my point is, that happens to everybody. And my question is, I think maybe it comes down to, is that necessarily racist, or if we just view it through the lens of, maybe this is something I'm uncomfortable with, but they're not meaning it to be racist, right? Racism would have to come with intent.
Yeah.
Racism does not have to be intentional.
It does.
Okay.
See, this is the difference. I believe it does. Racism does come with intention, right? If I treat someone differently based on the color of their skin, you can know, oh, there's an intention there, right? But if I have a good reason for that, hey, why did I get paid less than Johnny over here? Oh, well, Johnny has a master's degree in this. He had 5 years of experience already doing the job. And also, you know, he made a good case for negotiations. Oh, okay. That simple question, right? But these people want to assume, oh no, I got this bad outcome because I'm black, right? And here's another thing too. Identity politics assume a minority group is perfect, right? Because that's the only way you can get away with thinking that someone's getting a bad outcome because of the color of skin. You have to assume that they're perfect, they can do no wrong, and that the only reason they got bad outcome is because of something outside of themselves. But we all know, we're all human here. We all know we're not perfect. So to assume that, just immediately assume, oh, you're a black person, this person's a white person, this is why, and this white person happened to have more money than this other person, it must be because of white privilege. That's an asinine argument. That's a shallow argument. It's a superficial one. Because then I start giving the behaviors. Hey, did the guy have a better education than you? Oh, yes, he did. Okay. Did the guy have more work experience than you? Oh, no, he didn't. Okay. Did the guy, men tend to negotiate their salaries. Look it up. It's a stat. Is that why he got the job? Oh, that's why, right? Your behaviors is more, to me, your behaviors direct more of your outcomes than your skin color ever will, right? Racism and the Jim Crow laws, they used to deny you from an opportunity, not outcomes, opportunity, right? And that's an intent there. You can obviously see the intent there. Oh, you're trying to keep me from voting. Oh, you're trying to keep me from getting an education because you discriminate me based on the color of my skin. Show me a law that discriminates me based on the color of my skin, and I'll call it out as racist because you know the intent for that. But all this, there's no need to be intent to be racist. I'm like, no. If someone didn't mean to come across that way, because at the end of the day, you can interpret any action as racist. If I decide, I'm too big, I'm taking up a lot of space on the sidewalk, let me cross the street, you can assume what I did as racist. But in my head, I'm like, let me just get out of their way because I'm big as hell. I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, so I'm just gonna cross the street. You're gonna take it as racist because I happen to be a white guy doing that. You see how people internalize this stuff, and they wonder why people are starting to not take them seriously. And to me, this is a form of black fragility. Like, you think any slight against you is because of racism, not because of your attitude, your personality, how you behave yourself, how you carry yourself. You think, no, I'm perfect. It must be because of my skin color. That's how I take these attitudes when they talk like this. I digress.
For sure.
I think it can be subtle.
There's something called internalized racism because of how society just shows things off, right? A lot of women, a lot of girls, just look at Disney princesses. There's only one black Disney princess, and that's not crazy, but little girls look at their little princesses, right? And they look at all this array of, like, plenty of white women, right? And they aspire to be that a lot of the times. And I feel like little things like that, you're internalizing racism even though it's not blatant racism. I think everyone thinks that racism is this, like, thing that people go out and hurt people with, but a lot of the time it's just, like, the way you think. You think white bodies and white people first, and don't necessarily think about people of color in your life, right?
Well, I think that's when they say internalized racism, it's in a way I think projecting that. She's projecting, white must be right. No, like, to me, it's a lack of culture, in my view, and tradition and instilling values in your child. Like, hey, look, you live in a majority white country. Now we care about representation, but I think representation is a type of like it's to me it's very self-centered view. Like in my view, I'm like that's if how I see it, that's a good market. Hey, create the first black princess, whatever. You create the first black doll thing, whatever. But I think this is more of a woman problem because as a black man, I never really cared about like what the white style is. Like black men used to wear jerry curls and then black men stopped. Black men started just wearing their hair out like that. It seems like this is more like specific to black women. Like women have this, they always comparing each other. Like they always comparing their image with each other. So I don't relate there, but I don't think that's racism. I just think it's a woman thing. Like you like to compare, they like to compare themselves, right? Because as a black dude, I'm like, yo, I don't care. Like this is my style. That's his style, whatever. But I digress,
It's more so a mindset than blatant,
Yes.
like hurting people. You know what I mean?
What would be, I guess, sorry, are you comfortable talking with your mom? Or?
Sure.
Okay, here, do you mind getting into it so I don't, because right now the camera's going to be going back and forth. It's
sorry.
going to be going back and forth like a
Sorry.
Wes Anderson film.
Yeah.
So you see we're not trying to sandbag. What was your name, by the way?
She's so amazing.
Carrington.
Carrington?
This is what she does. She's so
Carrington,
amazing.
Stephen, and Eddie.
Eddie, yep.
Could you give me some examples there, maybe more examples of internalized racism? Because let me tell you where white people are nervous, okay?
Okay.
This is where I think
Love to hear that.
Yeah, so in other words, if you're talking about white people being racist, right, toward you, and that's a legitimate concern, of course, in some places you're going to have individual racists. It's a different conversation from systemic racism, right, or internalized racism, but we all acknowledge that. I will tell you this, the reason that a lot of white people don't have these kinds of conversations like this is because they're afraid of being accused of being, they're afraid of being accused of being racist.
Yeah, right, fragility.
Well, see, that is an attack to just say white fragility.
Yep, there you go. White fragility. Oh yeah, it's white fragility. No, it's black fragility. In my view, it's black fragility because if you assume people don't want to talk to you because of your skin color, bro, you got other problems, bro. All right, and the idea that someone doesn't want to be like criticized or despaired because of their skin color, you call it white fragility because you can't prove their actions being racist. You can't prove their actions somehow is a prejudice against you. That's why I see. That's how I see when people use the term white fragility. It's automatically assuming it's a type of gaslighting in a way. You gaslight the person to make them think, oh, what you're doing is wrong. For you to question my assumption is wrong, right? This is what I'm saying. You're giving automatic credibility to this black girl. You don't know if she actually faced racism. In my view, racism is only happens to you at a personal level. There's no institutionalized racism. She mentioned she internalized racism. To me, that's self-inflicted wound. I can't help you there, right? That's the kind of racism that she falls with. Oh, she takes any action as a slight. You fail her on a test. She thinks it's because you're racist. It's the same person would be like, oh, I failed the math test not because I didn't study. Math is not my best subject. I didn't properly prepare for the test. Nah, I failed the test because I'm a black woman. How is that not black fragility? Just like white fragility is, oh, if the person denies that they're racist to me, but they're white, it means that they're too fragile to acknowledge the possibility that they are racist against me. That's what white fragility is. Okay, black fragility is to assume every negative interaction in my life is due to my skin color without adamant proof, without clear proof. That's black fragility. You don't have clear proof that this person is racist, but you feel you are being discriminated against in some way. You feel you are slighted because of your skin color. Self-inflicted wound, black fragility. That's my argument. But I digress. I understand black people don't think like me, but I don't care. I'm an individual first. Black people want conformity. They don't want, like, imagine a lot of black men think like me. And 50% of the black people thought like me, bro. The 50% of people that thought like this lady here, they're gonna see a big difference. They're gonna be like, damn, these people move different. These people don't care. They just compete. Oh, look, he faced racism. What? He didn't cry? He didn't buckle? Oh, look, he went and made his own hotel. He made his own business. Oh, they didn't give him a job because his name was Shaka Zulu. So he made an African version of the same business, and now he's competing against this credit card business, and they're going neck to neck. Oh my God. That's the kind of mindset I'm running. I don't care about all this because I'm not entitled like these people. I don't expect validation from people who don't look like me. Actually, I don't even expect validation from people who do look like me. So when they call me names on the internet. I don't give a damn. Because this is how I think, and my experiences, the experiences that the things that I experienced in my life led me down this path. And I ain't turning back now. I'm using myself as the test dummy for these ideas. What happened if a black man doesn't let racism, doesn't let anything stop him? If he doesn't care for the validations of other people, how far can he get in life? That's the theory I'm gonna use my life for. I'm not gonna sit here and cry and moan about racism, white man on my neck. I'm like, yo, is a white man actually on my neck? No. I can't even name a white person that's against me. Okay, then why do I assume that the system is against me? There's a lot of reasons why I didn't get this outcome. But this is what happens when you think race first. You end up being the very thing you condemn, a racist. I digress. Let's continue with the conversation because now I'm interested now.
What if someone, for example, we just interviewed every single black man who we interviewed today, every single one, said, yeah, the Black Lives Matter thing got out of hand. All lives matter. Everyone's lives matter. And I don't think that was good for either community. Every single black man that we interviewed today. And if I were to say that same thing, right, because I don't think the problem is just race. Yeah. And I think we do have a failed justice system, by the way. I think you'll miss it if you think it's just race. Well, we can't classify that as white fragility or a microaggression.
Okay, so let me define
I
white fragility.
disagree with every white man, every black man you spoke with today. But go ahead,
okay.
Karen.
Yeah, this is gonna be like I'm telling you guys, in the black community, there's gonna be a divide in there because black men are like, yo, we can't continue like this anymore. We can't have great outcomes going by emotionalism because this is what it is. It's emotionalism. Black women feel more strongly about racism than black men. Black men was like, oh, black men can sit there and see and be objective about it and be like, yeah, I don't think racism played a big part in why this outcome happened. But if you ask a black woman, oh yeah, they're killing all our black men, emotional, because they don't understand the the cause and effect. They don't understand action has consequences. Men tend to understand that naturally because when we get off the cuff, when we talk out our A, we get corrected by other men. Women don't do that to each other. Women are very passive. So then they come in with these emotional narratives, right? White fragility and all that stuff. And this is why I said like a lot of black men that like fall into this white fragility concept, I think they're very emotional, feminized, but that's what happens when you're raised by a single mom. That tends to happen. And people wonder why black males are so emotional, why they kill other black men over some shoes. They'll have some shootouts over hurt pride because they were raised by single moms. Majority of the black kids today are raised by single moms. And we pick up those bad habits from our moms. But, I digress. Let's hear her define white fragility.
But they're entitled to their opinion. It surprised me that they said it.
So white fragility means that I think we're on the same page. You're just defining it as different. So white fragility means when white people are afraid to confront the fact that they might have racism or might have racist thoughts. That's white fragility.
But what if they don't?
They don't. Literally almost everybody in America does because of the way America works. Even black people have racist thoughts towards black people, right? So it's kind of hard to get out of there unless you're like not from America. And even then it's pretty difficult.
So imagine how all of it is centered around America. Oh, America's the only bad person here. Okay, it's not like Africans sold other Africans to slavery. Oh, no. But that wasn't racism, right? Oh, racism was a construct that was created here in America. So only in America this concept exists. And even then, it's not, but like, to me, we'll get a lot better, a lot further as a country if we only judge things based on the action, not what we think, not what we imagine what they're doing to be, right? And this is an unconscious bias on this girl's part. You can't read other people's minds. Human beings suck at evaluating people's intentions. So how you know he's thinking racist thoughts? You're making this based on an assumption. You have no proof that this is the case. The only way you can prove it is through actions. But I digress.
So literally everyone has some form of racist thoughts. With white people, it's just easier because they're not black or they're not a person of color. They don't have the system around them necessarily to confront that because they don't have to, right? So it takes more work on their part, right?
No,
and there's nothing really necessarily,
it doesn't take no. One, they're relying on the fact that this is why I believe black people, like the black community, doesn't strive to be successful, wealthy, They have a problem with the phrase "lift yourself by your bootstraps." They're scared to build, because I think in a reality, black people are scared to be in a positions of power, and that means they'll be held to the same standards that they hold white people to and other groups of people who do better than them economically to, because they in the black community, there's a success guilt, right? I know this because I'm a successful myself, that people will make you feel as a black man or a black person, whatever. A lot of the people in in my community will make me feel guilty, or try to anyway. And that's probably why I'm so emotionally stunted or emotionally, I guess, burnt out, is because they'll make me feel bad for being successful. Oh man, we didn't make it out the hood. Oh man, you got lucky. They try to make it seem like because you made it out, now you got to help everyone else come up. And I'm like, nah, your ass was here trying to be a basketball player. You didn't want to give it up, and you said, nah, F it. I become a basketball player or nothing else, and now you get the results of what you're looking for. But now you see me, I pivot. I decided to go down a different path, and now you want to benefit off of my hard work, off of my sacrifices, while you got to indulge yourself in a failed dream. How is that fair? And this happens a lot in the black community. You see it every time an NBA athlete gets drafted. What he has to do? I got to buy my mama a house. Why? The man barely got his money, barely got the first check, and he already giving it to other people. Because as the successful one, he has to help out his people. Identity politics going wrong. Right? Black people, a lot of like I think really they victimhood is a religion in the black community. Right? And they're trying to spread that into everyone else. Oh, you must see me as a victim. You must see me as having it a harder life than you. Every human being has struggles in their life. Every single one. Right? And they want to make this assumption that, oh, because of your skin color, you had it easier. Isn't that not prejudice? Isn't that not racism? So using racism to try to fix racism, you're only going to get more racism. And then when it comes full circle, they want to get mad about it. But they don't want to see how their actions contributed to the negative outcomes that they got. Black fragility. But I digress.
It's not great, but there's nothing wrong with working more harder to get to a certain point. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
I just want to be clear that I understand this. As a white guy, obviously, and I get it. Look, we're coming from different perspectives. You're defining something that you just said would require more work, right?
Yeah.
It would be a form of racism that they may not know, that frankly is something that they were born with white fragility, through no fault of their own.
Yeah.
What you just outlined is racism.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, no, you saying white fragility, that would be racist toward, like, saying, yeah, you are blamed for something that you were born with. You have white fragility just
so
because
racism,
you're black.
no. Literally everybody has their own form of racial fragility. You know that,
Okay.
right?
So there is black fragility as a term that's taught. Two, Latino fragility.
I mean, everyone can be racist towards certain people, and when black people are called out for certain things in the black community that are not necessarily great for the black community, sometimes they'll get defensive, especially if it's not somebody coming from the black community, because one, that could be seen as like perceived hate because you never know who you're talking to, and also just because like white fragility is a complicated subject because a lot of people feel it, you know what I mean, and it does hurt people, their emotions, so it's really hard to just. Okay,
I'm done. I gotta wrap up this stream because this is essentially, I can wrap it up to her is like these whole concepts that's breadline from CRT, critical race theory, which is a form of identity politics, is essentially using emotionalism to justify a perceived slight against you. Whether you believe that perceived slight is because of your sex, your gender, your sexual identity, whatever, you perceive that action as racist, sexist, or whatever ism you want to claim, merely because it made you feel bad, made you feel uncomfortable. Well, what I care about is it true or is it false? And if it's false, I'm gonna be mad about it. Kenny, you can't be successful because you're a black man. I'm gonna be mad about that, right? The biggest haters, the biggest doubters in my life, all were black people, right? But if a white person said the same thing, I would have just called him a hater. I wouldn't call him racist. I wouldn't care about his race. I wouldn't care where the information is coming from. I'll react to it the same way. If a black man say I can't be successful, I'll take it the same way if a white man said I can't be successful. But with identity politics, if a white man said I can't be successful, that's racism. Oh, he had a racial motives because of that. But if a black man say I can't be successful, oh, he just disagreed with you, G. You got to go prove him wrong. I don't understand that. That's racism. If you perceive the same action, the same behavior differently merely because of the color of the skin of the person who's saying it, you yourself are racist. That's why I agree. Yes, you do have internalized racism. But then to sit here and pretend, oh, black people can't be racist. It's harder for us to be racist because we're not in a position of power. And then I go, okay, if it's harder for black people to be racist because they're not in a position of power, can that also be a motive for why black people don't strive to be good economically, academically, right? Why they glorify dysfunctional behaviors in our culture, materialism, consumerism, right? Because in a way, it inadvertently hurt black people from accumulating wealth to the point where they will be in positions of power. Can I make the argument that black people are technically holding themselves back from becoming successful and compete in the academic sense because they don't want to be in positions of power where they'll be held accountable to the same standards as everyone else? Self-inflicted wound. This is the problem with identity politics. We glorify people who are perceived victims. And if you get glory, honor, recognition for being a victim, that's hard to give up. A lot of people are going to be like, nah, I don't want to be successful, because if I become successful, then I'm going to become the oppressor. Then I'm going to be the one that get criticized instead of the one that get praised. And that's hard to give up. Thomas Sowell had a quote that I'm going to end the stream off with, is that a lot of people hate achievement because achievement is due every day. Every day you have to work hard to maintain your achievement. Every day I have to work hard to maintain this channel. But an alibi, it's always, you always have access to it. If you use your race as an alibi, you always have that as a card in a tool in your kit. When something go wrong, it's because of my race. It's because of racism. It's because of sexism. It's because I'm a trans person. That's so comforting. That's so comfortable. That's so great, because you don't have to work hard to maintain an alibi. An alibi is. An achievement is something you have to become and continually work to maintain. That's a lot of work. You know human nature. Humans are naturally lazy. This is the allure of victimhood. And this is this is what captured the black community right now. Because the black community, they get almost a high off thinking how they have it harder than everybody else. They're the biggest victim on the block. And they get glory and recognition for that. They get praise for that in a way. Oh my God, I know you have it hard as a black person. And they go, yeah, you right. And then when they get successful, they can exaggerate all the setbacks they had in life. Oh, people were against me. I'm just a kid from Akron. Bro, you 6'8", 250, jumping out the gym. Of course you was gonna make it to the NBA. All you had to do was work hard, gain the skills, and you would have been successful. But we supposed to, oh my God, we glorified it. Oh my God, you came in, you got it out the mud. Maybe you did. But a white kid could be in the same position. A white kid can grow up poor in Detroit by a single mom. He would have the same circumstances as you. But if he becomes successful, oh, his white privilege did that. How is that not racism? Identity politics destroys culture. It doesn't bring unity. It causes separation. It causes division. And a house divided cannot stand. And that's what America's currently at. We're a house divided. We're a nation divided. A culture divided. And all because of what? Identity politics. All because we're taught to look at people not based on the content of their character, but the color of their skin. We don't judge people based on their behavior as an individual. We judge them based on their skin color. Oh, you're a black person? I have a certain expectation for you. But the minute someone breaks that mode and says, hey, you can do it too, you want to use, no, that's white man behavior. That's you speaking white. Why are you racializing a skill? Learning proper English is a skill. Learning finances is a skill. Having a good credit score is a skill. It's not based on race. Oh no, the credit system is racist, bro. Because black people tend to have a lower credit score. Okay, who tends to spend more money? Who tends to be irresponsible with managing debt? All you have to do is look at black women. They're the most evicted people. They're one of the most evicted people in America. Black men make less money than black women, but black men gets evicted less than black women. Explain that. But it's the system, racism, sexism. That's why black women get disproportionately kicked out of, disproportionately gets evicted. No. Women tend to have poor financial literacy, poor money management skills. On average, they make less money. They tend to spend more than they make. They tend to get into they have higher debt than men. All that is bad recipes for poor money management. But you want to blame your skin color instead of blaming your skills, your decisions, your behavior. You want to blame something else instead of yourself. This is the allure of an alibi. Identity politics is a shield, aka an alibi, to shield you from criticism, shield you from accountability. Hey, it's your fault you're in that situation. It's your fault you got evicted out of that house because of your poor money management. No, you don't want to hear that because that's hurt. That's tough. It hurts your feelings to get that type of criticism, but that's what you need. And I think it's time that we give some tough love, because right now, people who fit into the oppressed identity, they've been coddled in our culture. Coddled to think, oh, nothing's our fault. Everything else is something else's fault. And then you wonder why we keep getting dumber and dumber over the years, because we keep tolerating mediocrity. We don't push for excellence anymore. We don't tell people to strive for excellence anymore. And then people are surprised why we're declining as a culture, as a country. This is why. Show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome. If we put an incentive where you get more praise and glory by being a victim than being a hero and a victor, are you surprised when most people want to identify as LGBTQ? Where we get Gen Z being the gayest generation in history? Are you surprised by that? Our culture produces that. And the only way we can correct that is by influencing culture again. But I digress. Thanks for watching the stream to the end, guys. I really do appreciate you guys for checking in. Remember, guys, I will not be doing a live stream or an Inconvenient Truth next week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving week. I hope you guys have a good weekend. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you spend great quality time with your friends, your family, and your loved ones. I'll catch you guys in 2 weeks. Peace. Peace out, guys. I really appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. Peace.